love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up!
What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, here with
Toby Toes.
What is up, Toby? We are here on, I guess, our untitled Kamen Rider project.
Yes.
No idea what this is called yet. I was thinking that we could, so we're going to watch Kamen Rider Geats. We're talking about episode 1 this week, and I figured we could maybe, like, over the course of watching episodes, like, maybe come up with a name for this thing. So I was thinking this week, There Goes the Highlight could be our name, because, you know, we find out Geats says, here comes the highlight, and we're definitely not a highlight. We're a low light. The highlight is past.
It's very dim in here.
Exactly. So we'll keep brainstorming names as we go, but as of right now, no real name, but the untitled Toby Josh project, I guess. So if people haven't heard the two of us together as a duo of morons, that's reasonable. That I wouldn't know why you would have.
Back in 2006.
Yeah, it probably means you're like not 35 at least. I don't know. So I guess some quick pedigree about Toby and I. We have a long history of podcasting and video production, I guess we'll say.
Professional YouTubers for like
yeah
2 years, but like 5 times over.
Yeah, we've done podcasts about general nerd stuff. We've done wrestling podcasts, so all that stuff is like in our wheelhouse. And probably, yeah, our biggest claim to fame was there was a brief time until we got taken down by the man, where we were, you know, fairly popular as basically doing Mystery Science Theater for Power Rangers. So kind of talking and joking over Power Rangers episodes.
The exciting part was we hit like 1 million views like 3 or 4 times over, but it's only because we redo this channel 3 or 4 times over. Because damn Saban or Saban always had to crack down eventually.
And only like, you know, 80% of those views were people like really mad that two morons were talking over the Power Rangers episodes that they were trying to watch on YouTube. So like a good 20% of those views actually liked what they were hearing. So that's exciting. So it's been a long time since we've done anything together. Toby's been off, you know, still being a YouTuber and doing awesome videos. And I have not. So here we are. We're back.
I'm dragging Josh back down into the hellhole that is the internet.
That's right. Just when I thought I was out, I was off in Alaska. I had a log cabin. I was chopping wood. All of a sudden, a chopper flies in. Toby gets out. Back for one more mission.
You got the call.
So yeah, I mentioned, you know, Power Rangers. Like I think that you and I would say both are Power Rangers fans, but not so much Kamen Rider. You've never watched any Kamen Rider before, right?
No, like I think I've seen random GIFs of it on the internet.
Okay.
And the only thing I think I remotely know about it would be that it's Power Rangers, but the guy has a motorcycle.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good setup. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people watching this video are well versed in the Kamen Rider history. But if you're not, yeah, Kamen Rider is a very long running Japanese television series. It started in like 1971, I think.
Holy shit.
This is the 33rd mainline Kamen Rider series. And of course, there's been like spin-off writers and like a zillion movies and all kinds of stuff. But this is like the 33rd TV series. Kamen Rider is sort of the counterpart of Super Sentai, which is the Japanese equivalent of Power Rangers. So the show Power Rangers takes and adapts and turns into Power Rangers. The source material is the Super Sentai seasons. That's also a super long-running superhero show. So the sort of duo where Kamen Rider and Super Sentai air together in Japan is called Superhero Time, which is, I think, their Saturday morning like TV block, as
Perfect.
we might like, watch cartoons or whatever. So yeah, if you don't know, Super Sentai especially is very kid focused. Kamen Rider is as well. It's a little bit more like preteen instead of like pure kid. People get shot. There's some blood, stuff like that. But it is still kind of aimed at kids. It's superheroes. They try to sell toys just like cartoons when we were growing up. It has a big following in the West, I guess, in non-Japanese countries. So people get the footage, and other people volunteer their time to translate it, and then fans like you and I download it illegally so we can watch it, which is exactly what we've done here. So we're not going to tell you how to find these shows. You can Google yourself. The internet exists. But yeah, that's a little bit of the history of Kamen Rider. I have watched a few of the seasons. So I watched Kamen Rider Decade when it first came out, or Decade, which was a very confusing show because that was a weird one to start with, which I did because that one is sort of a recap series of like the past 10 years. So that main character goes and visits all the writers from the previous 10 years of shows, which I had no context for. Like I didn't know who those people were, like what any of those characters were.
So it's actually like referred to something that I remember. So it's like when like the Forever Red episode of Power Rangers, when there's like 25 seasons of Red Rangers together. And if it was your first season, you go, wow, there's a lot of these guys. Why?
Exactly. Yeah. Except this is stretched over the course of an entire season of Kamen Rider. So it's like, it's all this time travel-y stuff. And he goes back and like meets all of them for a few episodes at a time and stuff like that. So it's kind of stretched out.
Gotcha. All right.
So that was like a really good crash course, I guess, in the history of Kamen Rider, at least getting to see some of these guys, at least for a little bit. And then, yeah, I've kind of watched here and there. Kamen Rider Zeo or Geo is definitely my favorite series so far. That one's super, super fun. But yeah, here we are with Geats, which is the new show that's just come out. At the time of our recording, there's I think 4 episodes out. So we're a little bit behind. We're going to catch up here. But we are going to dive into episode 1. Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
Let's do it. The other thing I guess about Kamen Rider in general. So like Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, like Ultraman, and even stuff like kaiju shows like Godzilla. This is called a tokusatsu. That's the genre. So like any like live action show that uses like practical effects. So yeah, we're diving into a tokusatsu show. I always love saying that word. It's very fun.
You're very good at it. That was a very professional delivery.
Oh man, I'm nothing if not professional, which means I'm nothing. All right, Kamen Rider Geats episode 1. The show opens on a beach. We're standing on a beach. It's very dramatic. There's a character in just an unseasonably warm looking coat with a hood on. He's flipping a coin, and a woman brings out what we know is to be a Kamen Rider buckle. She tells him he's a Kamen Rider, and he says, "Yeah, I know." The first thing I thought on this beach was like, this is definitely the same beach from like the end of Death Stranding. I don't know if you played that game. The end of that game, there's like, beach stuff, and like there's like a Mario and Luigi reference for no reason, and Peach in her castle, and they're on a beach, and it looks just like this beach.
So pretty much like in any media, whenever I see someone flipping a coin, I instantly go to like Two-Face. So I'm like, this kid is going to be nothing but trouble. So I was literally waiting for like the coin flip and like one side scratched off, or him like more dramatically grab it and be like, okay, the choice is made, and like roll it that way.
This Two-Face piece of shit. The coin too is like, it's like Caesar's face, I think, on the coin, if I remember right.
Yeah, like they show it at the end, or not the end, but like later in one of the episodes that we saw.
Yeah,
it shows the Caesar thing. Yeah,
and yes, we don't really know too much about the coin yet. I don't know if that's just a weird quirk that he has, or if it like means something. It probably means something. Like I bet we find out he's some very tragic character, and let's see. I'll go ahead and call a shot. His sister was a bank teller, and she got murdered. and as she died, she was carrying money to the vault, and it flew out of her hands. And he showed up in the door frame, framed very cinematically, and that coin rolled to his feet and bounced off his foot, and he picked it up, and a single tear rolled down his cheek.
I'm gonna go even more ridiculous with it, where I'm gonna say at some point they're gonna need a coin to solve a mystery or to finish something. So luckily, he's always been flipping his coin the whole time. And can like almost like put it in a vending machine for a soda kind of deal.
You've turned it into like Scooby-Doo or something. Right?
Yeah, I mean the whole thing seems very Scooby-Doo-ish to me.
That's fair. That is completely fair. Yeah.
I guess more realistically, maybe he'll have to actually like flip the coin for a real reason and be like heads or tails, and we'll find out that's like double-sided heads or some weird
Oh
quirk,
yeah.
and that's why he always did it, or something along those lines.
I do hope we get to use the coin to decide whether someone lives or dies at some point. Because it is, it's like this game we're playing. I'm assuming at some point he's gonna have to make a choice that like is actually against his moral values. Like I hope the coin flip does decide it so he can go full Two-Face.
There we go.
Next we meet Keiwa Sakurai. He is a kind of annoying young man in a Japanese interview process. Which is like the most Japanese interview thing I've ever seen. Like I would never survive through an interview like this. It's like 5 candidates lined up in a room together and like 4 or 5 people from the company like kind of rapid fire asking them all questions like where they're all in the room together, all can hear each other's answers. Keiwa gets asked what he would like to achieve and he says world peace and he gets like the meanest side eye from the girl next to him.
So only because so obviously knowing it's a Kamen Rider show and assuming that he was the main character. So one of the first things I wrote down was, what are Kamen Riders and do they always interview for the job? Because I assumed he was interviewing for the Kamen Rider job and not just like work.
Oh my God, that's amazing. It's just a corporation. You just get hired like normal, but then you're a superhero at the end.
Yeah, like I don't know, like just the vibe that it all started with. I was like, I feel like they're interviewing him to be a rider, and that's why they're like, you have to work hard. You can't. Life is a battlefield, or some shit like that. They said.
Yes, quite literally, the quote is, "Life is a battlefield," which I thought love was a battlefield. I didn't know all of life was a battlefield, but apparently we've upgraded the battlefield in this modern war. Yeah, that's a weird thing, I guess, about Kamen Rider that, like, I've watched a few seasons, so I have accepted. But like all the characters, so okay, each season of Kamen Rider is usually its own standalone thing. So like these Kamen Riders that we're meeting here don't know about the Kamen Riders from last season. They don't know anything about those guys. But everyone seems to be very on board with like what a Kamen Rider is. Like the concept of one.
I gotcha.
You get this belt, you put it on, you become a superhero, we're good, let's move on. Like no one ever really stops to ask enough questions about like what the hell do you mean Kamen Rider? Like what, I'm a superhero now? Like what? Which is a weird thing. And then sometimes then of course in crossover movies and stuff, like the Kamen Riders from different seasons will meet. And again, never enough questions get asked about like, who are you? Like I've been running around for an entire year. Why are you here? What are you doing? So yeah, that's a weird one where like, he gets this belt at the beginning and you're a Kamen Rider. Cool. Great. Yeah. So this is kind of a weird, I guess, setup. So, in some seasons you're sort of like plucky main protagonist character who wants to, make the world a better place is just your main writer too.
Okay.
And in this one, which we'll get to, not really the case. So Keiwa here is, like I said, kind of hapless, which we'll introduce as we go. But he, doesn't do a great job on his interview. He finds out life is a battlefield. Then we do a quick cutaway to this floating platform. We hear about the desire deity. Quick talk about a game starting up, and then we very quickly cut back to Keiwa again.
So like, I guess it's to be expected, but I don't know. But like the graphics and the graphics, special effects, whatever you want to call it, in this show, especially like the stupid island that the girl's floating on, it just looks so bad.
They're bad. Yeah, they're bad. And the funny thing is, like, I think these are some of the best too. They tend to not spend a lot of money on these shows. Or I don't know, like maybe they are spending a lot of money on them, and it's just like compared to like the millions that Hollywood can spend, maybe it's just not feasible. But yeah, there's one shot specifically, and this might be in episode 2. I think you can kind of see it here, where it's that floating platform, and there's people standing on it. And you literally see like the green screen glow around their bodies, like super apparently. Like obviously they're on a green screen, but like they didn't even bother to like really clean that up. It didn't look great.
Yeah, I think it is the next episode. But yeah, it's like it hasn't looked like as dramatic or obvious until that scene when you see like a bunch of people standing on what's supposed to be a floating platform, but there's no like depth to anything. Like they all just look like they're on flat land, like next to each other, and not like angled the way the platform is. And...
Exactly, yeah, not at all like looking like they're standing there. But yeah, I mean, I will say, yeah, in their defense, like I think the explosions and then some of the like CGI like monsters we'll talk about at the end of this episode, those look a lot better than like most Kamen Rider CG does. But it definitely is a thing that's always suffered. Like I guess in their defense, like they're not making a movie, they're making like a weekly TV show that they're gonna end up doing like 40 some 50 episodes of. Like these things run like all
I got
year
you. All
long,
right.
solid. So like they probably, yeah, just like literally don't have the time to spend it on it. But yeah, that's always like the worst part about Kamen Rider and in general like Sentai too, because you're here for like the practical effects, you're here for like the real life costumes, and you're here for like the terrible but fun monster costumes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was always our favorite part of Power Rangers too.
Absolutely.
What is the wacky monster of the week? How cool does he look, or how stupid does he look? Kind of deal.
For sure. We're back with Keiwa. So he calls his sister, Sarah. She clearly has her life together, and Keiwa has not figured any of it out so far. She offers to take him out for lunch. Well, I guess first he says that he wants to win the lottery, and she says that he would just donate all the money to conservation. So getting a little bit of glimpse into his character is definitely a bleeding heart. So she takes him out for lunch, and he goes and gets Tanuki Soba.
Yes, which so like from playing, I've played like I think all the Yakuza games now,
Uh-huh.
and all I can think is like there's so many like characters and scenes in those games that involve them going for like a meal together.
Yeah.
But they always love like the cheapest, crappiest meals. So like it was like an instant like flashback to me of like the kid, they can go wherever they want to for lunch, and the kid wants like, I mean, I'm sure it's decently priced and it looks delicious, but they wants like dollar noodles basically.
Yeah. I think even the way they play it in the show here, it's like she even's like, this is what you want, like this is it. So I think even by the standards of these two kids, I think it's like there's nothing better. Don't want me to take you to the steakhouse next door or anything.
Nope, I want my cheap noodles.
Yeah. Also, I don't know anything about specifically like Tanuki soba, but it kind of sounds like it's like the Happy Meal of like his cheap noodles too. Like I don't know what makes it like Tanuki specifically, but it feels like it has like a funny character name. Like
Yeah.
can I get the Hamburglar ramen, please? That sounds great.
Everyone's favorite.
Yeah. So she takes him out to lunch. I feel like Sarah had it all figured out until she gets there at the table, and she's just like watching a Twitch stream while he's talking. She's just completely ignoring him.
So like that was funny because like it ended pretty quick, but the first note I had was like, I have friends that are almost like that we go out somewhere for a meal, and like half the meal is them staring at their phone, like doing stuff on Facebook, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like instantly like a triggering moment of like, God, I hate when people do this shit freaking at the table, especially if it's like 1-on-1.
Yeah. Like I have nothing to do but stare at you staring at your phone now. Thank you. I'm so glad I left the house for this.
And I also always love like when they do the fake real technologies, like, hey, watch this girl on Twitch, and it's like this weird, pretty crappy looking app, like real basic overlay of like, hey, here's a back button and here is a gear, so it's the settings, and we're gonna pretend we're streaming while I show you this.
Yeah, that's always one of my favorite things in any show. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Like if they're showing like a fake YouTube or something like that. God, I love the dumb names they come up with those things, and then like you said, like they put some of the stuff on the screen that would make it a functional website or an app, but like not all of it, and it looks a little too primitive always. Yeah, that's always great.
And it's also weird to me too, like, I guess it's just obviously 2022 how life is now, but like there's always like the fact that like, hey, we're gonna use Twitch, or we're gonna use a Twitch like as like a main jumping off point for some of this stuff. It just seems weird to me. Like we've so hardcore accepted the social media influencer life that's just like a basic topic for a plot, and we're just like, oh yeah, it makes sense. I wish I was her.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, kind of that taken, I guess, out looking at the whole episode, like we find out sort of that the premise of this show is like essentially like a Fortnite game or like an Apex Legends style like battle royal kind of game, right? Like you're playing for a mission, you have other people trying to achieve the same mission, like they can die, and then there's like one standing at the end. So yeah, like that is sort of the theme of the show, and then like one of the main characters being essentially just a streamer, like a lifetime vlogger. It's very like of the moment, but that's a real thing. So I don't know, yeah, like if you've spent like a ton of time around like tweenish kids lately, but like when we were kids, like you wanted to be like, I don't know, movie stars or rock stars. Kids just want to be like Twitch streamers now. Like they pretend to be Twitch streamers.
I have friends who have kids that are older, and every once in a while, like whenever they first get into a certain thing, like Minecraft videos or Roblox or whatever that kind of stuff is, I forget which friend it was, but like one of them had a kid who would sit and do commentary over the Let's Player instead of like doing the commentary over the game. So like
Great.
practice of like I mean, it's a pretty good skill in general. Like learn how to live commentate if you want to, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was the most random thing where like he obviously wasn't making his own videos. He wasn't just playing the game and talking over it. He was talking over someone else talking over a game. And like that's far down the rabbit hole we've gone now of ridiculousness.
I kind of love that though. Like I mean, like it's ridiculous, but like it's no more ridiculous than like like I said, like acting out being a rock star in your room, I guess. And like you said, like you're probably building actual real skills, like you're learning how to like do a little bit of presenting and very quickly describe things. Like there probably are some actual skills you're building, but it is a jarring thing to realize. Like there's a I'm gonna get the company wrong, but like it's like a Fisher Price or one of those like kid toy company things. And I saw the other day one of the things they sell is like a streamer kit. Like you can get your little like streamer looking microphone and like
Jesus.
when you press the buttons, it like makes noises like a streamer would and stuff. And like you get your like your sub notification noise and stuff like that. That's the world we live in. Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, like with the whole like Fortnite gaming thing for the theme of the show, like most of the things that I randomly kept noticing, or obviously that they hammer it home pretty well, but like it's just so ingrained with like the gaming stuff, like all of it taking place, like we'll see later, like but all of it takes place on like an app on the phone basically. So I was like, this just seems like like one of 1,000 like gacha games that I've played, like this dumb like pay to win kind of shits,
which are huge in Japan too.
Right. So like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
During this scene and some of the other ones, like when the battles start, it makes like the weird battle arenas from like Devil May Cry or like God of War, where it just like locks you in a certain area until you're done fighting everything.
Yeah, I guess it is very much like those as well. So I was thinking of those as like the circle that closes in Fortnite. But you're right, it doesn't move, so it is a lot more like a Devil May Cry type situation. Yeah. It pulls from a lot of games, but yeah, it definitely it's getting its inspiration from like those types of things. We find out that our streamer that Sarah is watching is Neon Karama. She's this like rich girl. She's kind of like live vlogging herself running away from home. She seems like she's like 30. I don't know that she needs to run away from home. She could probably just leave.
It is hard to judge the age of everybody.
It certainly is. But she seems definitely old enough she can make some of these decisions on her own. Nonetheless, while she's streaming, some fans show up to talk to her, and then her bodyguards show up to take her home. And these two guys, they don't get a lot of screen time, but quickly become my favorite characters in the show. Two very distinctly not Japanese actors. and they are just they're great. They're perfect. They look like they're I don't know, straight out of either like Men in Black or like some anime or something, but they're great. I love them so much.
It's like a bad wrestling gimmick, or I guess a good wrestling gimmick. Either way.
Either way, you know what? The line between good and bad wrestling gimmicks is incredibly small. Yeah. Quickly, we cut back into the restaurant, and a border appears between Sarah and Keiwa. Kind of splashes their food up in their face a little bit, and completely separates them. They are cut off from each other. And at the same time, these like freaky dudes show up. These like crazy dudes with these insane masks. They roll in. They got swords, and they just murk the store owner. Like, dude just gets cut down instantly, and seemingly dead. Just right away, dude gets killed.
Well, it's funny too because like that was one of the obviously said it's for all ages or a general all age kind of thing. So I just laughed because I was like, he pretty much takes a sword to the stomach. Yeah. And there's no blood or anything. It's just like the nice little purple effect splash that looks kind of cheap, like we said, and then he just like falls over, and you're supposed to assume that he got like sliced across the stomach with a sword.
Yeah, you're supposed to assume he essentially got just like gutted from this guy. Um, but that also like one of the huge differences between like obviously a kid show in Japan and like how a kid show would be here. Like they're trying to tone down the murder that they're showing, and I feel like here we wouldn't be able to show the murder. Like he would maybe get knocked down, but like they would have to show that he like very clearly is still alive or something.
Yeah, like
Which I appreciate the murder. Show him getting murdered. Let the kids know. Put him on blast. Sometimes a freaky dude shows up and kills the dude who just gave you soba.
exactly. And then like the funny part, like right after that, is when our young hero here gets sliced, basically like sliced in the face by the sword.
Yep.
He has like a little tiny like droplet of blood cut on his face. So
Yeah.
it's just funny then, because then so we established that the swords do cut skin and make you bleed. But then we just saw the soba owner get sliced down and no ill effects happens.
Yeah. So our, Keiwa friend has protagonist armor, obviously. So it just barely sliced his skin, where the shop owner's not not going to be around for too much longer, maybe. So he can die. It's okay. We do a quick cut. We find out that the mission is beginning. We find out that the sort of Kamen Rider belt buckles that those guys had are called desire drivers.
Is that an always thing, or is that just for this season thing?
The term driver is pretty standard, I guess lately. So when Kamen Rider first started, obviously they weren't pushing a toy line quite as hard. So like he had a belt that he would use to transform, but now lately they've really they've perfected their craft on selling you toys. So every Kamen Rider has some form of driver, which is the belt, and there are always things that plug into the belt that you have to buy separately. So like, okay, kids, talk your mom and dad into buying you the belt, then talk your mom and dad into buying you like a zillion other things that you plug in, and it makes different noises when you do it. So yeah, having some kind of belt like that is definitely standard.
Okay, yeah, because like, so we'll talk about it more in episode 2, but the next one definitely leans into the "Hey kids, collect them all" vibe.
Yeah,
We'll save that for the
for sure. The freaky dudes that just killed the store owner and sliced Keiwa's face head towards Neon. She was live streaming, and then they interrupted. The bodyguards try to protect her, and she runs away, and she runs right into Keiwa. So Keiwa is now paired up with Neon. He recognizes her from like, I guess, the brief second of seeing her on his sister's phone, and they don't have much time to talk because then those freaky dudes show up. And I wrote down in my notes, I think a very important sound, which is "ja," which is what those guys say every time they show up, and it makes me laugh every time. Like a group up and run in, and you just hear "ja." But yeah, these guys, I don't know. I think we find out what they're called later. I'm forgetting the name now. But I love these like putty characters, like just the generic enemy that they're gonna have a million of that they can kill are so ridiculous looking. Like they're huge baggy pants for no reason and huge baggy shirt, and they're like weird like inside out body heads for some reason. They're great. Like no notes, perfect. Keep everything as is. But let's see. So we have Ja, and then finally, Toby, we see our first real Kamen Rider appearance. A Kamen Rider appears on top of a building. He's got a crossbow. The characters call this Kamen Rider a polar bear. To me, he looks like a panda. So
Doesn't it say? I thought it said panda bear.
Oh, did it say panda? I thought it said polar. Okay, that makes more sense then.
Because like I feel like they had addressed it a couple times.
Okay,
I could have swore they said. Wait, no, you're right. So when the lady that's running the Destiny games, or how we're gonna call it, when she says, when she's talking about them, watching them do their little battle stuff, she definitely says Mr. Bull and Mr. Polar Bear.
Okay,
but I could have swore later that they call him Panda Bear, but maybe I'm thinking of someone else and it's just mixing together.
Because I'm not insane, right? He looks like a panda. Like that thing looks like a panda, not a polar bear. Come on.
It's a weird 50-50 mix. If we're only going off the helmet, it could be either. But like his whole outfit is pretty much black and white like a panda bear.
All right. Yeah. We also I really love the reaction here. Again, so in the sense of like no one knows what a Kamen Rider is, but everyone's just sort of on board with it way too easily. He shows up and like Keiwa exclaims, instead of being like, "Who are you? Like, what is this?" He just goes, "Polar bear?" Like, so it's not that there's a giant superhero who's like protecting them with a green crossbow. It's the fact that he looks like a polar bear. That's the confusing part. We also get another Kamen Rider show up. He's a bull, and this dude's badass. He's got like a chain sword. He does this thing called poison charge, and then like, yeah, he just whips ass. There's this huge explosion. He like at one point he like grinds the chainsaw into the body of one of the bad guys, and then they just spin for a while, and then they like explode into the ceiling and bounce off. And at the end, after the huge explosion, there's the little notification that says "score up," which really hammers home the video game.
Yeah, like we said, like obviously this whole thing is video game heavy, but like they even like when she mentions like either the host mentions keeping points, or when the riders start talking to each other, they're like, "Don't you want any points? What are you doing? Why aren't you getting points right now?" So it's pretty much like video game over.
And really to hammer it home, like one of them even says, "You keep stealing my kills,"
right?
Which is great. Then finally, we get a glimpse of our third rider, because up on the platform when we first started the mission, there were three people with the Desire driver. This third rider, he's just chilling. He's just hanging out on this like red couch. He's all good. There's a butler there who kind of like is being like, "Hey, you gonna go? What's up? What are we doing?" And this guy says that he has an ace up his sleeve, and the butler is like puts on the most unamused look that like he's just like, "I'm so sick of this fucking guy." Clearly is like the look that he has. So this guy's like acting like he's not, it's not a big deal. Finally he stands up, he's out on the platform, and he decides that he's going to join the battle suddenly. He summons a bicycle. He summons like a motorbike, like a crotch rocket type deal, and then he just like yeets it off this platform, just like hops on, zooms off with no plan about where he's landing. But it all turns out okay. So he already is the coolest. He's got a motorcycle.
Yeah, like see, I assumed out of the three of them, again with my limited knowledge of all these things, I was like, okay, one of them has a motorcycle. I know that's always the thing. He must like actually be a Kamen Rider, and everyone else is just other stuff.
Yeah, so everyone is a Kamen Rider. It's, again, that's a little weird. So there have been seasons like that before, where there are just a zillion Kamen Riders kicking around, but like most of the time, there's like one, and then another one maybe gets added later. Like it keeps it pretty small. But no, here we're just like piling them on in the first episode. Like, maybe you want like 18 Kamen Riders. Sure, let's do it. But yeah, he's clearly like the main dude. The motorcycle is an interesting point. So Kamen Rider literally means masked rider in Japanese.
Okay.
The whole point of the Kamen Rider, if you go back to that first season, is like dude's a motorcycle racer. Like that's his thing. He rides motorcycles. I think the first episode like opens with him sort of like tooling around out on the dirt jumps and stuff on his bike and stuff. So the whole thing was like he would transform and have the bike. That would be it. Well, in later years, like laws changed in Japan, and it made filming on Japanese streets very hard to do without like I think it was like without street legal vehicles. So they create these motorcycles that are like, crazy insane with like things sticking off of them and that kind of stuff. They're not street legal anymore. And something to do with like the legality of like being able to close the streets and get the permits and all that stuff made it really hard to film those scenes. So like there are many years of Kamen Rider where you almost never see them on the motorcycle. Like they might do it in like the first episode and then just quietly forget that the motorcycle exists.
Hey, you guys saw it. You know what this is.
Yeah, just imagine it's there. We're good. Or even worse, they clearly like did like one day of shooting on the motorcycle and then just like reuse that footage over and over and over again every time he gets on the bike. But yeah, so getting some good motorcycle scenes here is actually it's a nice treat. We don't always get that much motorcycle stuff going on.
I gotcha. So I guess that's why I took the dramatic liberties of having him drive the motorcycle across the side of a building to save someone's life because they're like, hey, we're motorcycling it up this time.
Holy shit, they made the most of their motorcycle time.
Yeah. If this is the only shot they get, it's gonna look good.
That was the most like anime like Bayonetta save that could ever exist. Yeah, it drives up the wall of a skyscraper, grabs the woman who's falling by the hand, somehow whips her around so she kind of like lands on the bike, and then the bike lands safely. Just insane. Just pure ridiculousness. I love it. It's great. Our next scene is one of my favorites. The polar bear demorphs and like very instantly shoehorns in the fact that he's a firefighter for no reason.
I love saving lives.
Yeah. Thanks for saving us. Well, I am a firefighter. Cool. No one asked you. The bull shows up after him, instantly accuses him of only saving them for points. And then they try to figure out where, quote, the other guy is. So our third Kamen Rider. And they surmise that he's going for the castle. We don't really know what the castle is just yet. The bull says the world's going to end, and then we find out what the castle is. This huge floating alien monstrosity shows up. It's got tentacles going everywhere. I don't even know. It's got a giant mouth in the front, and it's flying through the air. And it has a giant Japanese castle on its back.
So like it made me think of like multiple different things. Like the body itself, I was trying to tell if it was supposed to be like a clam or like a sea anemone looking thing, because it has like the weird coral patterns to it. I thought they were tentacles, but as we see the battle with the fortress or castle go on, it almost looks like the tentacles are hair.
Oh, okay.
So when they battle the castle, like the guy basically like sniper shots the tentacles, and it looks like they're like strands of hair that fall apart.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Or at least to me. That was the vibe I got.
I can see that. That scene was pretty sick, though. He just decides to whip out a rifle and snipe them all off.
Yeah, he's like, I got this. He just like starts shooting the weird tentacles down, decides the only way to finish this is to take the motorcycle through the castle, because that's the only way to do it. And then it reminded me of the other thing that I think I knew about Kamen Riders. So I guess that puts me to 3 things. Don't they... to like finish it, he does like a missile drop kick.
Yeah,
and isn't that the common thing too? Like, isn't like that the go-to finisher is the drop kick, common kick? I guess you could rider kick, whatever the hell it is.
It is. Yep, that is like typically their big, huge finisher is their big rider kick, which generally involves a giant jump to the sky, and then a kind of missile drop kick back down to the enemy, ending in huge flames.
Gotcha.
We'll talk about that one when we get to it, but it is an epic one for sure. Meanwhile, back to our polar bear friend, pretty much instantly gets just splattered once this castle shows up. Like, dude's dead. our poor firefighter friend who we just learned about. And the bull Kamen Rider just straight up happy about it. Just like, yep, he's dead. I guess I'm one for further up in the ranking. Sounds good.
Yeah, I guess like the whole reason, like reflecting onto that part, it would be, I guess the whole reason he was like, I'm a firefighter, I love helping everyone, is so that his counterpart there could be like, fuck everybody, you're dead, I win.
Yeah, exactly. Really, really blatantly sort of set up the juxtaposition there. Then of course, we have the scene that we talked about where Neon falls, and we get that just insane catch driving up the building from our third rider there. The Jaw dudes show up to fight Bull again, and then we get the interactions finally start between our kind of crazy motorcycle Kamen Rider dude and Neon and Kawa. And this is the best scene, I think, best interaction in the whole episode. So our Kamen Rider friend, who we find out later is Kamen Rider Geats. He tries to make sure the girl's okay, right? He's like, it doesn't look like you're very hurt, and she's like, no, I'm okay. And then Kawa runs up and like makes sure she's okay too, and he's like, oh, are you kidding me? I played it cool for nothing. You have a boyfriend. So they're like, no, it's not what it is. And he's like, so you're telling me there's a chance? Literally says the line, so you're telling me there's a chance.
Classic smooth superhero.
that was the point where I think I fell in love with Kamen Rider Geats. It was like, all right, this guy is an asshat and I love him. And then he gives them that like sort of classic like Captain America, like, you know, give the kid some advice to send them off strong. He says, if you don't give up, you can change the world. And then puts his arm around him real big. So he's fantastic. Then we get a weird, for me at least, kind of out of place like protagonist speech from Keiwa, where he just kind of drones on a little bit about like, I thought the world was gonna go on forever and everybody was gonna be happy, and now I find out the world can end, and this sucks. It just it didn't feel needed at that point to me.
Well, like I guess that's when they kind of start hammering it home. But I think Geats once or twice was like, it's just the world. We can redo it.
Yeah.
And then like that, I think that's more so of why he was like, but no, it's precious. And oh my God, why? And this is all horrible. If you're telling me bad things happen like this. And
yeah, they really, like you said, that's the point. That's the big juxtaposition where Geats comes off like a complete asshole. Like, you know, like inconsiderate or like full on bad guy kind of at times, just like, the world's ending, I'm gonna end. He even says, I'm gonna end the world, right? Like I'm gonna blow this world up, it's gonna be me. Just completely not caring, and then basically tells him not to get too attached to the world. So he's this just like nonchalant, basically doomsday speaker, and then Keiwa's like, I live here, what are we doing? Then we get, as we kind of touched on, our huge big ending fight. So Kamen Rider Geats, we get the first real henshin that we see. So henshin means transform in Japanese. So they always call these henshins where you get the big elaborate, you know, transformation sequence with all the CG and stuff.
And that explains to me why he says henshin sometimes.
Yeah.
I just figured it meant something, and I was like, okay, I don't know the word. That's fine.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that like everyone, all the nerds really like, that it's called henshin and they like saying henshin. So it's one of the things that they don't translate typically
I gotcha.
in these shows, because like the very easy translation is transform. But yeah, it's one of those things that they don't do. It's kind of like when like you watch anime and they leave in the like Toby-san, like that kind of stuff. It's pretty much like that. It's just because people have decided those are really fun to say. Yeah, we get he sort of puts part of the belt together. It says Magnum. He does the cool transformation. It ends up, and we find out he's kind of a fox-looking dude. He says, "Here comes the highlight," and he jumps into battle. So this is your first look at Kamen Rider Geats. What do you think about the aesthetics of Kamen Rider Geats?
So overall, it's pretty cool. I think one of my things from the main part of his fight was that he kept like, there's all these steps involved with all the things he does. He's like unplugging and replugging his belt. Sometimes he spins a little wheel. Sometimes he revs the motorcycle handlebar, whatever you rev to ride a motorcycle. So I'm like, as it was going through, I was watching. I was like, it almost seems unfair that like we saw the polar bear and the bull fight, and they're just like kind of fighting. Like sure they had the sword and stuff, but Geats, Fox, whatever, had like 7 transformations, and at least like costume wise or outfit wise, whenever he gets like new equipment from like unplugging and replugging his belt, his common belt thing back in, what's that called again?
The Desire Driver.
Okay, I need to learn the words. So whenever he keeps switching his Desire Driver thing, it does this really like, again, video gamey, I'm changing my equipment move, where it almost shows like the item coming off a rack, and he stands still, it slides over on like gears, attaches to him, and like those transitions, at least, are super smooth, where like you really can't see how they cut it. Like he just stands still, kind of maybe like vaguely idly moving a little bit, but actually those actually look pretty smooth, where it doesn't seem like there's other shit going on.
Yeah, I think that's where all their CG budget goes, is to make sure the henshins look good, because those look awesome. The reference point that I had or that came to mind for me with the kind of racks that the other pieces are on, it almost reminds me of like when you're putting together a model, like you're putting together like a Gundam model or something, and like everything's on a sprue and you have to like clip it off, like It looked like almost looks like that, where you like get the piece on a sprue and they like have to break them off and put them on, you know, your model that you're putting together, which is Kamen Rider Geats.
I'm offended that you called it a Gundam model and not a Gunpla.
Well, I didn't want to
while talking about how you knew what they were.
I didn't want to, you know, tip my hat too much to how big of a nerd I was. I did have the internal monologue of like, am I gonna say Gunpla out loud right now to Toby? And I decided not to. That's where I landed. But you know what? It was the wrong choice. You're right. I should own who I am.
For all the super fans of putting Gundams together, they were gonna get so mad if I didn't correct it. They would have all the comments would have been, "These fucking idiots don't know anything about this stuff. They're called Gunpla." They push up their glasses and wipe their bloody nose and
because they got boners because of our episode. Because that's what happens in anime. Yeah. Why does that not happen in America? Like, I don't listen, Toby. Let me bring it in for a second. I've gotten some boners in my life before.
Oh,
I've
man.
never gotten a bloody nose because of one.
I don't think I ever have either.
It doesn't happen. It must just be built different over there. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like even the logistics of this, like the blood drains and goes other places, so it shouldn't be in your head to come out your nose.
Right.
All things considered, that should be the last place it comes out of.
Right. I mean, just we're talking biologically. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I know. To be fair though, no one has used their sexy jutsu on me, so I don't. Maybe that would change things.
Yeah, that's probably why. That makes sense.
But yeah, I think Geats looks awesome as well. Like the aesthetics of Kamen Rider, like, you know, I'm a huge superhero fan in general. Like, you know, all the Marvel stuff going way back, and like I still get excited about seeing that stuff in live action. So like the Marvel movies are still fun, even if the story sucked. They're still fun because like I'm getting to see a human being be Captain America, for example. And this is exciting in the same way of like it's a real life person who is a superhero like on screen. And yeah, for me there's something that's awesome about the live action of it, and like seeing the practical costume get put on. It looks like a real life Batman or something standing in front of me. And I really like the eyes with Geats. Like we talked about, he kind of is this weird anti-hero at this point. Like, we don't know if he's a good guy or if he's a bad guy. He clearly has his own agenda. You know, we find out at the end of the episode that he wants to sort of remake the world in his own image, and his eyes give this feeling of like a bad guy. Like they're glowing red. So I think it fits his character really well too.
Yeah, so speaking of the end of the episode, just to finalize the battle we saw and take us to the last like minute of the episode here.
Mm-hmm.
So they, of course, Geats saves the day, brings down the castle, makes another comment about how world's going to restart again soon, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. We see some nice little crappy animation where the world starts to rebuild itself.
Yeah. Brick by brick.
Brick by brick. Yeah, so he says, and this is where the new world begins. And then all the pieces of the city rebuild. That we always wonder what happens when the Power Rangers break shit and the giant monsters smash everything up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, we have now like an in-universe explanation for all of that. Like, no, we're just gonna tear the city down, and then when the game's over, it'll just all go back to normal. It's great. It's fine. Yeah, I didn't think about it in that sense. But yeah, it's we find out it's a game to change the world, of course. So some of the last interactions there between Keiwa and Geats is the belt buckle, which we find out is like the booster buckle, like flies off, which is a great little scene. Yeah, Keiwa gets a little too close, and then it just it explodes off of Geats' belt.
Yeah, looks just like a firecracker gone rogue, basically.
Yeah,
it's just like
exactly.
This real lame little, I don't know, like tiny little red rocket that just shoots and gets all squiggly and flies away and blows up. And
yep, which is super fun. And then yeah, the new world forms. We find out that the Tanuki Soba guy is back alive, but he doesn't remember anything. Keiwa remembers everything for some reason, but as he's eating his soba, that woman shows up with a Kamen Rider belt for Keiwa, tells them that he's been selected, essentially. And then we also see scenes of a bunch of other random people across Japan also getting their own Kamen Rider belts. Like, yeah, it just seems like people from all walks of life just getting handpicked to join this game. and Neon is one of them as well. So she also will be showing up, it seems like, as a Kamen Rider. So that is it's the first episode of Kamen Rider Geats.
So my one last question, and I
Mhm.
forget if we ever talked about this back when we used to do Power Ranger stuff. So in other seasons, does becoming a rider make you good at martial arts, or is the logic always the person is the person? And I only ask it because when they show a picture of all the people they announced being now like the new riders,
Yeah.
some are like younger, whatever, like Neon, but like there was 2 or 3 very old women they picked to be
Yeah.
rider. So I was curious if it just meant like, I guess maybe in the scope of this it's a little bit different, but like, does becoming a rider give you the martial arts abilities, or is it just you were still you and these people were?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't super know the answer to it. At least in the series that I've watched, that hasn't really been addressed. Like there are sometimes some pretty normal looking dudes that become Kamen Rider that then are are very good at fighting. So Kuga is a season that is it's sort of the first of like the kind of modern era like reboot Kamen Rider series. And yeah, that guy specifically is definitely someone who doesn't seem like he would have any martial arts skills, but then can fight pretty well. Let's see, Zio, he's like a high school student, and he gets the belt, and then obviously can like fight super well. And he definitely is like a nerd type character who wouldn't really have a lot of a lot of martial arts skills. So it's kind of implied that like you're gaining some ability in addition to, you know, the cool outfit, but I don't know how far it goes. Like I don't know if those women are suddenly Jean-Claude Van Damme or what. I don't know how that works.
You like that's the part I was anxious to see. I was like, because at that point, obviously, if they all become riders and they all can fight, I would assume it's based off of the desire driver and not just the human being themselves. But I don't know yet. I'm interested in finding out why or how or who or.
Yeah. I would imagine that a lot of it, I bet it's like the Green Ranger in RPM. You remember him? Where it's like a scrawny dude, he morphs, and then he's just like a regular sized human who can fight really well. I bet that's the logic. But I would love to hear in the comments if anyone knows if Kamen Rider has like specifically spoken on how that works in past seasons. I'm interested to know because yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, teach me all the things.
Let us know. So, all right, your first episode of a Kamen Rider series. A lot happens here. What are your parting thoughts?
In general, there was a weird moment of like joy tonight when you were like, "Yeah, let's watch basically Power Rangers again." So in general, I think I was extra hyped for just the situation that was going on. Uh, I know I would assume they're not all video game driven like this, but I do appreciate how video game driven this one is because
Yeah.
like I said, I was like going through most of my random notes was picking out the video game things and being like, wow, this is like a video game. So to me, that part's awesome. I think it's cool that the riders are actually like different things compared to like when we watch Power Rangers and it's just like everyone's the same and they just have different colors. And granted, they all have their different Zords, so I guess that kind of evens it out. But it's just cool to see like actual different costumes for like the everyday person kind of thing.
Yep. And then that's always a thing in Kamen Rider shows. Even if there are multiple writers in a season, like they're almost never just carbon copies of each other with like a palette swap. They are like unique costumes, unique characters, which yeah, is super interesting and kind of way more exciting than the kind of Sentai equivalent usually is. When you look at like Power Rangers or you look at Sentai, like all the main characters are always on the same page and always good guys, right? Like we're a team when we're fighting bad guys together. And one thing I really love about Kamen Rider is becoming a Kamen Rider doesn't mean you're a good guy. Like there's good and there's bad Kamen Riders. They often have their own agendas and it isn't always saving the world, superhero like protagonist type stuff. So that's fun because it's like way more shades of gray than Sentai is. And I think this series seems to be setting up well for that type of thing. Like our main guy, Kamen Rider Geats, is like who knows what his intentions are. They're certainly not clear.
He's a cool anti-hero
Yeah,
instead of just hero.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm glad you liked the video game stuff. I hope that continues. If you really like the video game stuff, I can turn you on to another Kamen Rider series called X-Aid, which is like, if this is video game inspired, that is like fully ripped off of video games. Like straight up, like he turns into a video game character and does platforming levels and stuff. Like it is insane how video game X8 is.
Okay.
The character has like bright pink molded plastic anime hair, and he has a video game controller on his chest. So yeah, that's one to look into if this is a thing that you enjoy. I will show you some pictures of X8 after this. But any other last thoughts about Kamen Rider Geats episode 1?
No, I think we're good. I got to ask all my silly I've never watched the show before questions, so I'm way more informed now than I was an hour ago.
Awesome. Where can the people find you on the internet, Toby?
Twitter only. I refuse to TikTok or learn how to TikTok, really.
Yeah.
So just Twitter only at Life of Tobes, Tobes.
Fantastic. I also am an old man who mostly just focuses on Twitter. You find me on Twitter at Pretty Deece Josh. That's PrettyDecejosh. And we, Toby and Josh, will return for Kamen Rider Geats episode 2.
I'm taking shots at the enemy. I'm gonna make it to the top, leave a legacy. If I got something to say, you better let me speak. Turn it up a new degree, bitch, you ain't seen anything. I pop off with the new rock, electronic, blow the sonic roof up.